Here's the big one, guys. Bauer Shadow Skates CCM XF Pro skates. Now, this has been probably the biggest comparison that you guys have wanted to see, so here it is. Excuse me. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the specs of either of these skates because we have separate videos that I'll link down below and also up above, so you can watch those if you want like the real in-depth studio videos about what these skates features are, all the fancy tech names, what they do. But main standout features on the Shadow Skates from Bauer is going to be the Powerfly holder, which has the different constructed zones that have different stiffnesses to help your side-to-side movement on the ice and also your agility and explosiveness, but that's what they claim. Moving up from that, we've got the Carbon Connect outsole, which is 40% stiffer than the outsole that we saw on the previous generation of skates, which would have been the Mac or Mark skates, however you want to pronounce it. Moving up from there, 12K carbon curve composite, same sort of construction that we saw on the Mark skates again, but of course facelifted, it's got that matte faded look for the Bauer Shadow skates. From there, Amp Flex facing has also been upgraded here. It's a smaller insert which just allows you to get better flexion over the skate, better recoil, again, so they claim. We've also got the Ergo Connect toe cap, which is a much more low profile toe cap than what we saw previously. It also has a slightly more stiffer zone around the forefoot area, and that's meant to help your agility on the ice. Now, when we move into the tongue, we've got the Power Coil tongue, which was similar to what we saw in the previous generation of skates, but like I said in many videos prior to this one, I feel like this one's a little bit more flexy, like there's a bit more recoil in it, but that's just me. And then of course we've got the reflex tendon. Inside the skate we've got Aerofoams and the LockFit Pro liners, again very similar to what we've seen on previous generations of Bauer skates. Now when we move on to the CCM XF Pros, in terms of the holders, it's CCM's XS holder with the much larger dial, with the almost much more abrasive surface to be able to allow you to switch out the blades and undo the dial whether your hands are wet, cold, or you're wearing gloves. And then of course moving up from there, looking at the actual boot itself. These have standout features on this, of course. It's a one-piece boot. That's CCM's, one of their key selling points about their skates. They don't have outsoles. The boot is using what CCM refer to as Force Composite, which is a completely different material to construct these elite level skates than what we've seen previously. Benefits are essentially just better impact durability, and of course the skate is able to maintain its stiffness and its performance for a much longer duration of time. Now, these being CCM's Tacks range, it's going to be the stiffest construction that we get from a CCM skate. Now, when we move up from there, other key features are definitely going to be the Adapt tongue that we see over here. This was also featured on the FT6 Pros. We've also got a slightly wider tendon that we didn't see on the previous generation of CCM Tacks skates. That just helps to have better coverage around the back of the foot, but in terms of its stiffness, very similar to what we would have seen on the ASV Pros. Now, something fun with the tendon, like I said, it's a bit wider. This is CCM's Flex Tendon 3.0. I think that name's a bit rubbish, but that's just my perspective. It also features a Force insert, which I think is overkill. I don't really see the performance benefit there, but it's in there if you think that's cool. Going into the skates, we've got the Infinity liners with arguably some of the best foams I've ever seen inside a skate. There is no kind of break between the actual foams that protect your ankle as the skate comes up. Like for example, with the Bauer, the foams start to get thin as you get into the comfort pad. And there's almost like a point where the foams go in and then out again to where the comfort pad or the comfort edge thing at the top of the neck is attached to the boot. Whereas over here, the liners, the foams, the pads, all of it just extends over the top of the skate, which has a significant impact on how the skates feel around your ankle and also the level of support that you get from the construction of these liners and foams versus what you get in the Shadow Skate. Now, all of these kind of key features aside, let's jump on the ice and let's talk about what the on-ice performance is like, because like I say all the time, having the best tech doesn't mean the skate comes together cohesively. There's a lot of elements that come into play and everything has to work together to have a product that performs as well as a lot of the manufacturers might claim it does. But let's jump on the ice and talk about what the difference is between these two skates from myself and also Tommy. All right, Tommy, let's do it this way. I want you to tell me, by lifting up whichever skate you think wins, let's go for, first of all, design. Which one wins the... Okay. Really? 100%. Okay, all right. I think the Bauer takes the award for the design. Now let's go for fit. Why?
Just the comfort. Like I said, box game ready fit. If I don't have to bake them, I can get them and put them on. It's a no-brainer.
Okay. And what about the liners? Which one wins on liners and what it feels like inside?
100%.
Give me a bit of insight why.
I feel like I'm putting my foot inside a memory foam pillow, if that's even possible.
What do the Bauers feel like?
Higher skates.
Oh, wow. Seriously, dude?
Yeah, bro, I'm sorry, but I'm being honest.
Okay, what about the tongues? Which one wins on tongues? Why?
Because I felt like the tongues in the Bauers were digging into my foot. I know you agree with me. You can pull that face. I know you agree with me.
I'll give my feedback, don't you worry.
I know you agree with me.
Okay.
It felt like someone was standing on the tongues and digging their blade into my foot.
What about the flexible tendons? Which one were you more happy with?
To be fair, you can't really. I don't feel the difference in the flexible tendons.
So it's kind of like a tie?
Yeah.
Both win that one?
Yeah. Bauer can have a little lift.
Okay, now what about the performance?
Oh.
Why?
Because I'm not thinking about my feet.
Okay, I can't really argue with that at all.
If my feet hurt, the first thing on my mind is my feet hurt.
Okay.
Whereas if I ain't got to think about them, first thing I'm thinking is Puck. Where's Puck? I can shoot. I can hit him. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, that's fair. What about the holders? Which one would you say is the better holder?
Ooh.
Be honest.
Look-wise or...
Functionality. Functionality, don't care about the look.
I'm gonna have to go CCM.
Ah, okay, fair.
Purely for the fact of I still believe that the releasable blade on this holder is easier than this one.
Okay, that's fair. I think different, but I'll come to that in my section of the video. Holders, the XS holder was better than what we saw from Bauer before the Powerfly, but now with this new holder, I think this one's better to use. It's easier, it's quicker to remove the blade, and it's much more secure than what we saw previously. What other elements of the skates really stood out to you?
I think the main reason these are so low is the comfort, the ankle support.
Okay.
There's not much of it. And with everything that's put into skates nowadays, I just expected more.
That's fair.
And CCM gave more.
This is a pretty interesting one. I'm gonna try and break it down into a few different sections so you guys can hopefully understand what I mean. First up, I think both companies have implemented a crazy amount of technology into both of these skates, but I've said this before, building the perfect skate is kind of like a recipe when you're preparing a meal. It's not about just getting the most expensive ingredients and throwing them into a pot and hope that they taste good. Everything has to work in unison to produce something that performs as well as the manufacturer's claim and as well as the price point supports. Now, I feel like this isn't me being a fanboy. In all elements, this is a better skate. Now, let me explain why. When we look at the Shadow Skates from Bauer, some of the main elements that really stick out to me is, of course, I hyped about how the new holder's pretty sick, about how the quarter package is a essentially rebranded version of what we saw from the last skate. It's still the same carbon that they're using over there. The new toe, the slightly upgraded tongue that was still featured on the previous generation of skates, all of that stuff I've covered in the review. Now, while all the tech sounds phenomenal, it's why you need to watch the on-ice videos as well as the in-studio videos, because on paper, this skate sounds like a home run. But in reality, there are a couple of elements that really let this skate down. And I'm trying to say this as delicately and as fairly as I can, because I don't want it to seem like I'm just crapping on Bauer, because this is my experience, Tommy's experience, and a lot of the players that we know that have these skates. The ankle support, for whatever reason, it feels like the skate's neck sits much shorter, so you're not as stable on the ice. You really have to make an effort to do the skates up. When you use these skates fresh out the box, they punch out to the sides a lot more than what we're used to with True and CCM, and that really affects your ability to just take them out the box and use them on the ice. Now, of course, you're gonna say bake the skates, but even after baking the skates, I just don't feel like I've got enough wrap around the top sections of my ankle and my foot area to make me stable and feel stable on the ice. That's one of the main issues that I realized. It feels like the neck is lower, and that really affects my stability on the ice. Now, when we look at something like the Ultrasonic or the Mark skates, I didn't feel like I had that issue. The Ultrasonic skates, I've said it for many, many years, were my favorite ever made Bauer skate. The Mark skates were very similar to the Ultrasonics. These do not feel like the Mark skates or the Ultrasonic skates. It feels like something completely different, and I'm not sure what they've done here makes sense or works. I think obviously you'd have to spend a lot of time in these skates to adjust to them, because it's like learning how to use a pair of skates again. Whereas with the Ultrasonics moving into the Mark, I didn't have to really think about that. I just jumped on the ice with them and I felt fine, comfortable, and stable. Now, the next area of this skate that really lets it down is in the instep area around this midsection of the skate. It feels like there's less volume than I expect in a Supreme skate, which is really odd, because that's kind of what they were known for. Now, I know there's Fit 1, Fit 2, Fit 3 from Bauer, which kind of eliminates the previous way that they size their skates. This is a Fit 2, which is what I've become accustomed to when using Bauer skates, like with the Hyperlight 2s, and I didn't have that issue. But it feels like these are much, much more restricted area of volume in this area of the skate, which made it really difficult for me to be able to get the tongue to flex properly. And I said this was a great tongue the way it snaps back, but because of that feeling of less volume, I felt like I had a restriction in being able to lean forward and get the tongue to flex and perform the way I wanted it to do. Essentially, I felt more restricted in these skates than I did in the Ultrasonics or in the Mark skates. But aside from that, those are the kind of two elements that I felt didn't really work well for me with these skates. Now, when we look at the XF Pros from CCM, straight out of the box without baking them, because of that game ready fit, it just works. Same with the FT6 Pros. You could just rip them out the box, strap them onto your feet, get on the ice and skate and play hockey. And I didn't think about them once while I was on the ice. And right now at the minute on my feet, I'm wearing True's brand new 9X4s from the Catalyst range, which replaced the Cat 9s, which were one of my favorite skates. These are fresh out the box. They're going to be baked, they're going to be sharpened, and I'm going to jump on the ice with them again. But all I've done is rip them out the box, sharpen them, get on the ice, and I'm filming, I'm playing. I'm not thinking about I've got new skates on my feet. That you can get away with a True skate, with a CCM skate, and I don't feel like you can do that with Bauer skates, especially the new Shadow range. Even after baking, it just didn't feel right. The game ready fit really wraps around your foot. It gives you a feeling of comfort and also stability. And with the increased volume in this same area that I was complaining about with the Bauer Shadow skates, you don't have that with the XF Pros. CCM have increased the volume here, which makes it really comfortable for your foot. You don't feel any pressure. You can just focus on playing the game. Now, I've gone into a lot of talk about the tech and spec of the skate, so I'm not going to do that in this video. But in terms of maneuverability, stability, and performance on the ice, this skate just excels because they've really nailed the foams, they've really nailed the tongue and the volume inside the skate. It hugs you around the heel, it's open a little bit higher around the two eyelets, it opens a little bit more than what you saw in the previous generation of skates, which makes them incredibly comfortable just straight out of the box. This skate fits you better, performs better for my feet, Tommy's feet, than what we were experiencing in the Bauer Shadow skates. Now, this is in no means a dig at this skate, because like I said, Bauer do great work, but I feel at the moment, I'm gonna dare say this, I feel like they are selling products right now based off of their name, and it doesn't feel like they're working as hard as they should. Whereas companies like CCM and also True have stepped the crap out of the skates that they produce, and it's really starting to show now. There was a period where Bauer was producing better skates than CCM ever was, and that True ever was. But right now, CCM and True are producing better quality skates. And if you're trying to figure out which one of these two skates is going to be the better one for you, even if you need a high volume skate because you're used to being in Supreme skates, this skate does, unfortunately, in this review, fall short to what we have in the XF Pros from CCM. So hopefully that clears that up. If you want to see the tech and spec of both of these skates, I'll link those videos down below. But this is why it's so important to watch the on-ice versions as well as the in-studio versions, because when we're in the studio, we're talking about how this skate has improved from the previous skates from a technological standpoint. Is it a better product based on having newer features? In this case, this is compared to the Mark skates, but what's the performance on ice like? If you're trying to figure out if you should get Shadow skates and you don't want to go to CCM, I would suggest getting the Mark skates, or even better, looking for some Ultrasonics on one of these websites that sells stuff that's, you know, not super brand new or current at the minute. Because I feel like those Bauer skates are much better than what we have over here. So I'm not saying go out and buy CCM. I'm saying if you're thinking about getting the Shadow skates and you want to stick with Bauer, don't get the Shadow skates, get the two ranges below in terms of the Mark skates or the Ultrasonics. But in this instance, if you want to get something different, this does take the crown. And come at me in the comments, guys, because this isn't CCM versus Bauer fanboy from CCM over here reviewing. This is me trying to be as subjective as I can and talking about what I felt on the ice. And I think if you look at some reviews online from other people that have been inside these skates, you'll see some similar points as well. But I hope Bauer will watch this and make some adjustments to the next iteration of this skate. But if you're wondering which one is better, CCM takes the crown over here.